ons goeienaand vir ons gaste daar in Johannesburg. Good evening, Josine. Welcome on Eden FM.
Good evening, Hans. Very nice to be here tonight.
Is it cold there?
It's very cold. It's very cold. I think it's the coldest I've ever felt in Johannesburg. We had a huge snowstorm in the morning, and it's been cold the whole day. So hopefully tomorrow it will be a bit better.
I hope you have a blanket over your legs.
Yeah.
Okay. The topic tonight, listeners, is something that I think is very relevant for the South African context, and it's related to how to teach digital skills that's relevant for the 21st century. And I think just as a little bit of background, Josine, why is it important?
Well, if you think about it, our society is becoming increasingly digital. ICT is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. So it's important for children who come into our society that they're able to understand what's going on and they're able to work with it. And of course, we've all, heard about the launch of ChatGPT in November and the whole discussions about AI. So it seems like the revolution is even moving faster than we could have foreseen even a year ago. And having some basic digital literacy is important for learners. And of course, the ICT industry is growing, and it's not just, ICT companies, but every company is becoming more digital. So specific ICT skills need to also be learned by learners and students. So in basic education, that's where we fill the pipeline with ICT skills for the country. So then we're looking at computer scientists and cybersecurity people and data analysts. And there's a huge skills gap already. Mm-hmm. So, and it doesn't feel, and actually the numbers say it, that the basic education sector isn't doing enough at the moment to start filling that gap. So that's very concerning.
Yeah. So you're from a company called Flying Cows of Josie, and just tell us what Flying Cows of Josie is about, because I think that fits in with what we're saying now, eh?
Yes. So I established Flying Cows of Josie late 2017. I've been working in the ICT and education sector, I think, for about 20 years in this country. And through all the different projects that I've been running in schools and in teacher development centers, I realized that one of the pivotal things that we need to do is make sure that teachers know how to teach 21st century skills and how to integrate technology in the classroom. And somehow, and this is a mistake that we also make in the corporate sector, because somehow we think if we bring computers to people or technology and we give them once of training, and then we say, well, there you've got it.
There you go.
Off you go. Well, people don't go, and even if they're excited, it's a different way of teaching. So Flying Cows of Josie is built on the idea. We employ recently graduate teachers who specialize in ICT and education, and they coach in-service teachers on how to integrate technology in their classroom. And that works. So we've got so Thokozile has come on. Hi, Thokozile. So we've got a platform where we combine face-to-face training with webinars and intensive WhatsApp support. And we'll support the teachers. It's more hand-holding because we know how it works. You think, if you've been to a training, you think, no, now I understand what it's all about. And then you go back to the classroom, and then maybe you remember step 1, and you possibly remember step 3, but what was step 2 again? How did you get there? Yeah. And it's always useful to have somebody on hand who can then jump in. And I think most important, and that's why we work with young teachers, is that, digital isn't just doing the same teaching and then using digital tools. 21st century education is really looking at how do we move to a new kind of teaching where we teach the learners 21st century skills like creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. And we teach the learners that by teaching the teachers more, as they call it, transformative pedagogical strategies. To put it simply, we're moving from the teacher as a lecturer to the teacher as a facilitator of the learning process, where the learner has the agency. And it's those strategies that you then say, how can I enforce these strategies? What digital tools and resources have I got available? Because the context is also relevant. And what digital resources, reinforce or amplify the teaching strategy that I'm employing. So that's why it's relevant to have young teachers explain this and work with the teachers on it.
And Thokozile, that's just joined us, is a young teacher. Thokozile, good evening, welcome. If I can ask you just to talk a little bit about who you are and what you do in the teaching environment.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Hans. So I'm Thokozile Mokwena, and I'm a young teacher, an ICT teacher. Started teaching in 2019, graduated from the University of Johannesburg, and I became a flying 𝗙𝗆 in 2018 when we worked with Vodacom on the teacher, computer center teacher workshop. So my majors are English and school ICT. So I'm currently teaching technology and CAT at Bolu College, and I've taught also in Marvin Primary School.
And what do you notice if you come to teachers and tell them about this technology? What would it typically look like? Will you say to them, you can use WhatsApp, or you can use YouTube, or Google Forms, or how would you go about?
Well, it all depends on the content that you're teaching. We wouldn't say we're basing the whole education or the whole teaching philosophy on using technology, but it also goes with the content that you want to deliver, and also goes with the pedagogy that you want to use. So firstly, you need to discover the content that you use. Then you find a medium that would best suit what you want to teach. So can you use WhatsApp? Yes, you can. Can you use Google Forms in the classroom? Yes, you can. But now, what type of content are you teaching? Is it suitable medium?
So you English teacher as well, eh? Together with the CAT and the technology. We've lost Thoku for a moment now. Yeah. For instance, would you give different solutions to, like, language teachers and a maths teacher and a science teacher and accounting teacher? What would it practically look like?
Yes, so practically, we work for clients. So we don't go to schools directly. We get hired by clients who want to integrate a digital platform in a school. So one example is the 𝗙𝗆𝘆𝗶 Math and Science platform. That's a brilliant platform which generates practice questions in math and physical science math from grade 8 to grade 12, physical science grade 10 to 12. And so what we do then we get our coaches who also do math and science to assist the math and science teachers in the schools that 𝗙𝗆𝘆𝗶 wants us to assist the teachers with. So we assist them by visiting them, by hosting webinars and supporting them via WhatsApp. That's the 𝗙𝗆𝘆𝗶 Math and Science platform. Last year, we worked with the Oxford University Press. They've got beautiful content to assist learners with reading. So you've got Oxford Reading Safari, and there's another Oxford platform, and that's more for foundation phase teachers. So it really depends on the client that we got and the kind of content that they want introduced. So, for example, with the Vodacom Foundation, that was together with DBE, and then it was all the applications that are present in the teacher development centers. There are 147 teacher development centers all over the country, and Vodacom and DBE were supporting the center managers with courses on that. So we make sure that our flying cows know,
Time is running out in terms of we need to take an advert break and listen to 𝗙𝗵𝘆𝗶 After the break, we're back on Ons Sit Koppe Bymekaar. And please remember, listeners, as u 'n vraag het, 060-505-2693. Dis ons WhatsApp nommer hier by die ateljee. Ons luister na 𝗙𝗵𝘆𝗶. Goeienaand luisteraars, ons is weer terug hier by Ons Sit Koppe Bymekaar. And we're talking to Josine Overdevest and Thokozile from Flying Cows of Josie. There's a bit of a technical problem talking about IT and digital spaces that give us problems, but hopefully she can join us shortly. Josine, if during the COVID pandemic, if we had these skills in our educational sector, would it have been possible to handle the pandemic without losing learning?
Yeah, so definitely. At least we would have kept a lot more learners and teachers on board, because I think we lost too many of them. And the interesting thing was when the pandemic started and the school lockdowns, for everybody in the e-education sector, so that's all the people involved with digital in schools and technology in schools, everybody thought, no, this is great, because this is suddenly give a boost to digital in education, and it's fantastic. But apart from the fact, the technological issues, that not all schools are prepared, that there's not enough network coverage, that buying data is an issue. Teachers, if you're not prepared, if you've never learned to teach online or to use technology, then making that switch without any preparation is very difficult. And I know, so much content was made available to the teachers that they could use. But that's like saying, as I always say, that was like giving them a huge library and then say, here's this huge library and all the content that you need for your subjects is here. But you have to go find it yourself. That's
exactly.
That's what sometimes people call the second digital device. It's not a divide. It's not just knowing how to use the devices, but also, once you are online, where do I find the content that is relevant to me? How do I search? Where do I search? So, yes, if we had a lot more teachers who were technically competent and were used to using technology in their teaching, then it would have been easier. And there have been great examples. I've had young teachers who've also been with Flying Cows of Josie. They took over and they created content on WhatsApp and kept communicating with their learners. So there have been exceptional examples of creative teachers, but I think a too big majority fell by the wayside.
Yeah. I was looking at the PILS study, the 2021 study that said 81% of South African grade 4s cannot read full meaning in any language. And we 3 years behind Brazil, which is a country almost with the same income, same spent on education. So it's probably, and I see this professor's, Paul, talking about that the pandemic took 50% of the grade 4 learners' opportunity to learn away from them, and it's going to have long-term consequences. Thokozile, being a young teacher, your school, if there had to be a second pandemic now, will they be ready to go on teaching in an online environment? We cannot hear you now, unfortunately.
You're muted.
I'm sorry. Yes, no, I've just unmuted. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is we were one of the fortunate schools that is able to go online. So during the pandemic, we continued with the teaching, although that isn't the school that I'm in. Well, else in 2020, when the pandemic came in, I was in a government school and we had to close. I was teaching grade 4 at that time, and I only saw my kids from March. I only saw them again in August, and all that time was lost. And when they do come back, we're just rushing time and trying to patch the gaps just to teach the content that the department wants us to teach. And eventually we just take all the kids a grade further, whether they did gain the skills or they did not gain the skills, because we're looking at the time that we lost, So in the public school, there was a disadvantage in terms of the pandemic happening. But now in the private sector, education continued. In 2021, we never had a time where we said, we are not teaching. Yes, we were away from school because the levels were high and everything, but we were teaching online. We still had a timetable. We were following everything. We had to teach, and the kids would all be online because it's a prerequisite that when you come to the school, you need to have a device.
Okay.
So there's that digital divide between the two sectors. Yes.
What is sort of the basic device of devices and software that for these teachers and parents and learners listening to this program? What advice would you give to them? What should they have as a basic minimum equipment and software? Where would you start?
We would start with some iPads, your tablets. They've got, firstly, the screen is good because it's not a small screen like a cell phone where the kids would struggle to view their books, their ebooks and all that. So maybe start with a tablet where the kids would be able to get soft copies of the work that they're doing, And the kids would also be able, you've got some apps. You've got Edmodo, you've got, I'm forgetting some of the apps, but there's a lot of apps that you can actually access online, which are free. Josine, I heard her speaking about EduZone from, what was the company again, Josine? Please help me out.
From Oxford University Press. Yeah.
Oxford University Press, yes. Yeah. We have EduZone, which is 0 rated. There's textbooks in there. There's some revision activities that the kids would actually be able to engage with. So it is something worth looking at. Yeah. But it's easier with just a tablet.
Okay, and I'd like to, can I add something about that?
Please add from your
because, apart from having our young teachers coaching the teachers, we also consult with schools and districts and educators on what the best approach is. And the thing is that we always need to look at what's the context in which you're going to bring technology. Because if you're in a very deep rural school that doesn't have the ability to invest into tablets and things like that, the technology that you start with can be a simple thing as just having some laptops for the teachers and a projector and start with that. That's also technology. So the Department of Basic Education has a brilliant framework, which is called the Professional Development Framework for Digital Learning. And there also the steps are indicated. How do we move from teacher-centered to learner agency in the classroom? And then what digital tools and resources can we use for that? But that also depends on the context in which you operate. Deep rural school, you might not have access to the latest technology, but at least some technology. We've done a project in 2021 in a deep rural school in Northwest Province, where we assisted the teachers with 𝗙𝗶𝘆𝗶. So that's the math platform. It's very simple. It's online. It's 0 rated. And there the kids just have to bring a smartphone. And initially the teacher said, but we don't know if all the kids have a smartphone. They all came to the school with a smartphone, because there's always a brother or a parent who's willing to give or to lend out the smartphone for the day. And that's simple, because it doesn't cost them anything. And that's the fun thing, because as soon as the learners start working, for example, with 𝗙𝗔𝘆𝗶, then they see that the phone can be used for so much more than just playing games or WhatsApping, because, you're learning. And actually, 𝗙𝗔𝗆, you also, the more sums you make, the more points you get, and then you get badges, and there's a leaderboard. So that makes learning also excited about math and science.
Yeah, you spoke during the preparation, Josine, you spoke about the difference between a phone and a computer, as different devices that you're not computer literate if you can use a phone. Just help me understand that, and also explain it for the listeners.
No, that's not really what I said. We were talking about. We were talking about. Yeah. No. So, and that story actually came from Thokozile, who is a CAT and IT teacher, and that's only in grades 10 to 12. And she teaches in a private school in a northern suburb of Joburg. And even in that school, there are not a whole lot of learners taking CAT and IT. So, and that's specialized, more specialized computer application technology and programming. And that is because before grade 10, these learners haven't worked with computer in teaching and learning. So they don't know what the subject is before they choose it. And then they think a computer is a scary thing. Whereas they always work on their phones already. So that's what we were talking about. If you're comfortable working with your phone, a computer is actually similar. It's just, a different device.
Thoku, is that correct? Did Josine hear you correctly on that?
Yes, I've actually got 21 students from grade 10 to grade 12 doing CAT from out of the whole school. So only 21 students. Sure. And the numbers are just not getting there. But now we've come up with a new way of teaching technology in grade 8 and 9, just so that we introduce the kids to computers. And we hope that maybe in the near future, more kids are going to be taking on IT and CAT, because they really do not know how to use a simple application such as Microsoft Word. Yes, they struggle with it.
What was your, why did you choose this? If, saying that you've got 21 kids from grade 10 to 12 taking CAT, so you would have been one of those 21. What is it what exposed you to it? What made you choose this career?
So from a young age, I've always loved computers. We had a computer at home, and my dad would make us type. Remember, I learned how to type using a program called Maybe Speak On.
I also did. Maybe Speak teaches typing.
Yes.
On a stiffy drive. So, you would have done it on a stiffy though.
Yes. So that's where I learned how to type. And eventually I started using word art, and I would be drawing. And eventually I just wanted to explore what the computer is about, I remember when I was around 11 years old, I burnt one of the computers at home because I was just switching the buttons because I wanted to know what each button does. So getting into varsity, and at the school that I went to, we didn't have CAT as a subject. So I didn't do CAT in grade 10, 11, and 12. But when I got to varsity and they told me that I have the opportunity to teach CAT, I went for it because I wanted to know what happens in a computer. Why does it run the way that it does? And how does it manipulate the data that you put in, So it was more of the curiosity for me. And also just to teach other people how to engage with this fascinating technology.
Yeah.
So that was mostly my encouragement towards getting into ICT development.
So in a way, having a computer at home when you were young, can say, put that little flame of curiosity, got that burning, and it just became like a fire later on. And we're sitting here having the opportunity to listen to you. So what would you say to parents listening to this program tonight? What can they do to help their children, become more digitally literate?
I'd say open up the opportunities. There's so many opportunities out there for kids to learn how to do more things with their phones. And if parents are not pushing that out, I have an 8-year-old who I'm teaching how to code right now. And it is the parent that stimulates that, So the parents need to look at the opportunities that are out there. They need to buy the kids devices that are going to help them, It's not all just about having a doll or having cars, but let us have those educational devices that are going to help the kids towards their education. And also look at ways that you can help your child in terms of their education in different ways. How do you make it more fun? Education is not just about the school, but it also has to happen at home for the kids to love it, So at home, buy your kids puzzles. Buy your kids Lego.
Yeah.
And that is going to stimulate their of using technology.
Buy your kids Lego, buy them puzzles. Yeah, make it fun. Yeah, beautiful examples. Jason, I would like you sitting there in the studio, and Johannesburg is quite different from Eden or Southern Cape. If I may ask you a question, do you think parents down here are maybe, because technology is quite unknown to many of them, would it be that they may be scared of being so unknown, or what do you think is it that prevent parents from introducing their kids to this kind of world, this world?
Ons, thank you for the opportunity. I think you can hear me. Everyone can hear me?
Yes.
There we go. Ons, maybe agreeing with you that our parents don't know how can I put it? Don't have the knowledge of devices. On the one hand, I think especially older, because most of your kids are not staying with parents. Some of them are staying with grandparents. They don't understand the technology and are scared of introducing it to the kids or the grandchildren that are staying with them. So I think that is mainly one of the reasons that young people or kids are not so much. I think my kids are using technology like nobody's business. They know more than what I know sometimes if it comes to technology. So I think is the vast difference between living with parents that grow up in the technology industry or revolution, if I can put it like that, in comparison with kids staying with their grandparents that are not so advanced if it comes to technology.
Yeah, I think for many parents, they see technology as Facebook and WhatsApp. And maybe Instagram and TikTok and that kind of thing, and
maybe even the negative things that they get, that they hear or see. People are talking about everything is bad if it comes to technology, which is not really true all the time. It all depends on how do you limit the usage of the devices that you give to your children, because it can be to an advantage to most of them. I think young kids that are always using not TikTok, but what you call it, there's such good apps that you have on your smartphones that can help kids with language, with mathematics, with all of those kinds of stuff. If you give them that technology or devices to use it. There's a call also coming in at this moment. I'm not sure if it is for us, but let me put that listener on the line. Eden FM. Hello. Hallo? Hallo? Goedenavond. Evening. Nee. I think we lost that person there. So yeah.
Yeah. Josine, you wanted to say?
Yes, because I also want to go back a bit to the teachers, because parents and learners, it's great, but so the focus that Flying Cows of Josie is looking after is the teachers and the schools, because, the teachers, we find, for example, if we show learners how to use 𝗙𝗆𝘆𝗶, they will use it. They will use it much more if the teacher also uses 𝗙𝗆𝘆𝗶 in the classroom. And because the teacher can set assignments on the platform for the learners, and then the platform marks the assignments for the teacher. They can do assessments. So we see a difference between learners. You always have champions like Thokozile when she was a learner. They run with an app like that. The majority doesn't do that. That's why we've got teachers. They need to facilitate, instigate, encourage the learners to use it. So that's all. The teachers are really pivotal in this. And, if the teachers, like some of the parents, are still afraid of technology, you've got a big problem. But there are different ways. And sometimes we shouldn't present it like we're going to teach you technology. But we did a great course last year with VVOB in KZN, where we had 1,000 educators who had to be enrolled in an online course. So what they were learning in the course was not digital in the classroom, because this was about learning math through play. So these were foundation phase teachers. But because they had to enroll in an online platform to do the course, somehow, because they had to do the course, they learned how to use their cell phone for a different function than just their Facebook or WhatsApp. And they got excited and thinking, wow, there are more uses to our smartphone than we thought before. And it took a lot of encouraging, because, teachers would also say, no, but I can't find it on my phone, and I'm too old and I don't understand, and it's technology. And the Flying Cows would just keep assisting them and saying, no, come on board, I'll help you, I'll show you where to go. And then once they've completed the course and get their certificate, there's a lot of excitement. And then they've, through practicing it, they've learned, how they can do a course online and succeed. And now they can practice it in the classroom. So it's those kind of things. Sometimes if you make it too much like, I'm going to push technology at you. That's why I say we need to focus on the different, what is your pedagogical strategy that you're using? And then how does technology amplify? How does technology amplify that strategy? Because it's much more, and that's why I loved Thokozile's examples of saying, take puzzles and Lego into the home. Because, apart from having digital skills, what's important in today's society? Numeracy, literacy, digital literacy, plus all the other competencies, the creativity, the curiosity, communication, collaboration, and playing games like with Lego and puzzles also, keeps that curiosity and creativity alive. So the focus should be much more on those kind of competencies, and then see, how do you amplify that with technology?
It's you said teachers are pivotal in terms of using this technology, and I think so. It's maybe not so much in terms of using technology, but like you're saying, how can we make your life easier by equipping you with the skills to like the digital skills? And I think one of the things that I notice, I think teachers are very much snowed under with so many other tasks that now to put time aside to learn something that I don't know whether I'm going to master the skill. So it almost feels to me like time should be set aside for like this sort of type of education for the teachers as well. I think that there's a resistance to change if you force it down, and I think the whole way that message gets put across is very important.
Yeah, and you know what? Most people are change averse, so that's nothing new, and that's
human.
It's human, and it's also how it works in corporates. Digital transformation processes without change management and looking after the people and getting them on board, then it also doesn't work. But I sometimes think, what would I do if I had a magic wand, if I would have 3 wishes? Yeah. I would wish that we were able to prune the curriculum, because the curriculum is really, really very content heavy. So there's so much knowledge that's being pumped into these kids. And the teachers with their teaching plans.
Recording in progress.
Oh.
Sorry for that.
Yes, so that's fine. So it's the curriculum. That's one. The second one is to have the resources, and with that I mean time and budget, to really implement actually the professional learning framework for digital learning from the DBE. So have time and money to teach the teachers. Plus, a whole lot more money to make sure that there are more digital resources being made available to schools. Because currently there's, less than 40% of schools have a functioning computer center for learners to work in. So that's a big issue.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges, like if I think of township schools, how much money is spent on security and, during the holidays, theft that happens on their premises and so on. So you can never separate, the socioeconomic context, environment in which schooling is taking place. And I guess that's one of the challenges for the South African society, because computers are things that's easy to steal, tablets are easy to...
But the other thing is, there are also new devices and solutions being developed for that all the time. And I think... it's not that there's nothing happening in the education sector. There are all these little pockets of excellence everywhere where organizations very passionately work with teachers in schools, and they're really having an impact. Last week, I attended a webinar about what the Telkom Foundation has been doing, and they're doing great work. But also, the lady who runs this project says, we need to collaborate because Telkom can only handle this many schools. And then, Vodacom is doing another project, and MTN is doing another project, and everybody's doing their own projects. If we want to teach our learners 21st century skills, we should also apply them ourselves. We should apply more critical thinking. We should communicate about what it is we're doing and where we run into trouble. And we must collaborate. We must collaborate with each other and say, guys, this is what we're doing. So we're even talking to organizations that have been working in schools, at a much more foundational level, just working with school management, with principals, with the community to get the school functioning better and assisting with improving content knowledge of teachers. So they've got this running already for a couple of years. And now they say, can we put that digital layer on top of it? And then you already,
it's a gradual process. You start at the bottom and you work it up.
And too often, every corporate with a plan or an organization comes in and they select a district and they run in and then the project runs for a year, 2 years, and they run out again. So it's never sustainable. And that's a problem. And I think
that's a big challenge. Yeah. I would, you spoke about the magic wand and like with make things better. And Thokozile being on a young new teacher, can you share some success stories with us listeners in terms of developing digital skills or something in your environment that you'd like us to know about?
Okay, so the one success story that comes into mind is from a project that we did last year as the Flying Cows of Jersey. And we were working with some schools from KZN on the Read to Learn platform. So Read to Learn is a platform that is there to help the teachers in terms of supporting learners that need more support through reading for understanding, reading for meaning, and articulation of words, pronunciation of words, And when the project started, we had some teachers who were pulling back, but at the very end of the project, it was a 6-month project. And at the very end, we asked the teachers to compile a report in terms of how everything was going. And we had this one teacher who was so excited. He said, when the reports came out, when my kids were writing a test, the kids who were struggling to answer the questions were able to give me answers that I could actually read and understand. Even though they weren't 100%, but there was over 60% improvement just from using this digital tool, And they were also encouraging their parents to do the same thing at home, to read with the kids, listen to your child read, then help them with the activities that come after they've read, see if they're able to find the answers. So there were 2 questions that would be about the content of the story that they've read. Then there was one question where they had to think out of the box, So if you were this character, what would you have done differently? And the kids just have to think about the answer on their own. It's not something they take from the book. And the teacher was so impressed that they wanted to continue with the project, said, this has helped my learners so much. And I would like to continue teaching this way, So that is from teachers who were not sure if this was going to work. It was a burden for them. They had to try and rearrange their timetables because they had no time to fit it in. When we started, the complaints would always be, when are we going to find time to go to the computer lab and do this with the kids?
I'm too busy. I cannot.
Yes, we have so much to do. What do I do with the rest of the class when I take these other kids for them to go and have this reading time? And we also had one more teacher who was using her laptop for all the learners. She would just go to her office with the learners and she would help them read. And at the end of it all, the teachers were happy and the kids had improved in terms of their reading. So I think that's one success story that we may say, where Flying Cows of Jersey came in. We helped the teachers integrate that program into their timetable, how to use it wisely, and how to not make it a burden. We were there for support. And at the end of it all, the teachers were happy. They understood what it is that they were doing and they wanted to continue using that technological platform. So as we're saying, it's not so much about the technology, but about what you're doing with it and what it is that you want to achieve through it. What is your pedagogical strategy? What's the content? What are you teaching to the kids? Then you decide what technology you're using and how to use it to get the best results from the kids. So Read to Learn was one of the best platforms that we engaged with and that the teachers were able to engage in and find the meaningfulness of using technology in the classroom.
Just that's a beautiful story. I think when I listen to you talk about the story you shared now is this, like the reason why teachers go into teaching is because they want to teach. And if they can see how technology can help them achieve that, I think that's that, and then they'll be sold. But at the moment, I think it doesn't happen like that. Sorry?
Yes. No, I'm saying if they know how it's going to help them with their teaching, then they'd be open to use it, rather than technology being advertised as an extra thing to do to add on to the load of teachers, but rather it being introduced as an assistant to the teacher.
Josine, if there's like one message you want to emphasize that we're coming to the end of this program that you would like the listeners to remember, and that you would also like me to remember about Flying Cows of Josie, what would that be?
So maybe not necessarily about Flying Cows of Josie, but about the urgency for, yes. So we are failing our children currently. I'm really, really frustrated, passionately frustrated about that. I'll give you an example. The other day, I saw 3 buses of children coming from Joburg Zoo, and they were happy and they were cheering and waving. And I thought, now look at them and the excitement. And then the buses went by and I looked at them. I thought, you know what? They're on their way to such a dismal future, actually. And that's because we don't give them the quality education that they deserve. And like I said in the beginning, we're living in an ever-changing society that's becoming increasingly digital, and we don't prepare our learners for it. And we've already got a huge unemployment, and we're just adding numbers to it. And sometimes, my frustration is that integrating digital literacy and 21st century skills is often seen as a sort of nice to have. It's not a nice to have, it's a need to have. And it's a way for these children to fully develop themselves and come into this. The world can also be exciting, this digital society is also exciting. So you want to be able to play a role in it. So you need to have a good foundation because, currently there's so many, after school small programs where we learn, young matriculants or people who left school, we teach them digital skills, but it needs to happen at a foundational level. Literacy, numeracy, 21st century competencies, and digital literacy. That's what we need to help these children with. And that's what we're not doing now. So if I want people to remember something or to get up out of their chairs about and be active and talk to the schools and ask the teachers what's happening, is saying, how are you teaching my children to be prepared for the world we're living in? I think that is, my drive for Flying Cows of Josie always, Yeah.
Wow, thank you for that message. Your enthusiasm and the words, I think hopefully it stirs our listeners. Is there a last message from you, Thoko, before we close off?
My message would be, can we all play a part in terms of introducing our kids to technology? It doesn't help if they're only going to learn about it in the higher grades. It needs to start from a foundational part. It needs to start from the lower grades. It needs to start at the the crèches, the early development centers. We all need to have a part that we're playing towards preparing the kids for the future. Because if we're not doing that, again, I'm going to repeat what Josine said, we're failing our kids. They're not going to be able to cope with the world that is coming. We are changing, the world is changing, and the kids need to change with that. They need to be prepared. So that's it. Let's prepare our kids on time, early as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate you spending time with us, Eden FM listeners hier aan Ons Sit Koppe Bymekaar. Vir ons luisteraars, volgende maandag aand is ons weer terug. Ons dink aan Thea wat nie so lekker voel nie daar by die hospitaal. Dr. Thea Smith en mooi week en onthou education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world, om nou vir die late president Mandela aantal. Maar baie dankie en ons sluit af met Ayub Tugada Kosbiru. Mooi aand. Thank you.
Thank you.